All right, good morning, traders. Today is April 28, 2025. Just a few more days left in this month. Good morning, and thank you for being here. I want to thank everybody in podcast land, digital land, cyber land, everywhere. Thank you so much for following me, subscribing to my content, watching my videos, finding the value in my content, leaving the kind words for me, and the thumbs up on the videos and all of the content. Appreciate that, and I love that a lot. I don't take that for granted. I try every day to provide valuable content out there. All right, so my name is John Kerrigan. I don't moderate. I'm the lead instructor at the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. My SPY pivot this morning is 549.50. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. SPY, QQQ, FNGA, all now in daily uptrends. Okay, so they broke those lower highs right there. Okay, all of the Fab 5 Friday, made higher lows and higher highs, closing over bullish traps over their falling 17. I don't know about falling, but over their 17 EMAs. SPY closed with a 2-hour uptrend and a 10-minute uptrend. Gold still in a daily uptrend. Gold made a lower high and a lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. Silver still in a downtrend, but let me just say this, it's not moving down. Made lower highs and lower lows, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. USO in a downtrend, made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap below the 17. UNG also in a daily downtrend. Yeah, that one is moving down. Made a higher high and a higher low, closing under a bearish trap under the falling 17. US dollar index still in a downtrend. We love that, okay? Closed near 99.55 area. SPY max pain is 545 for today with a put to call ratio of 1.4 puts to each call that expires today at 4:15. All right, let's go take a look at some charts. Okay, let's take a look at some charts. Let's minimize that. Pull up the SPY. Get the 10-minute out. All right, here's Friday's close. All right, got the big igniting candle, a big comeback candle right there. Okay, got a 10-minute uptrend going into the close. See the candlestick up there? It made the 3 EMA cross up there over the 8 EMA. So the 3 EMA is the yellow line. All right, that's the yellow line, and the 8 EMA is the white line. Okay, so notice the 3 is up over the 8 at the closing time. I'm going to call it a 10-minute uptrend over the rising 17, 10-minute uptrend. What did we trade on Friday? We'll see this beautiful 10-minute uptrend right here. See that beauty? All right, we traded that on the breakout of this consolidation. It was some horrible, sloppy consolidation, all right, for the first half of the day. And then we had a breakout of a 10-minute uptrend. That was a beautiful rise right there, okay? So that was a nice thing. And I even pointed out to everybody in the room, hey guys, this is green and race is red right here. Hey, this is the 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. All right, so everybody should have made some money on that one right there. Okay, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. All right, if you didn't, get with me so we can fix that. All right, so there's SPY. 10-minute uptrend on Friday going into the close. 2-hour. All right, 2-hour. Got a 2-hour. See, here's the white 8 EMA. See the yellow 3 EMA. I noticed a lot of lines on there. Okay, but got a 2-hour uptrend going into the close. On the daily chart. Okay, on the daily chart, we've got higher low, higher high. Closing over a bullish trap. See the 3 on top of the 8. All right, over the rising 7, over the flat 17 17 EMA right there. So, and we've got a daily uptrend. See the low right here, or the high? Okay, so we made a higher high. That makes us in an uptrend. All right, not a very convincing uptrend, but it's still in an uptrend. Okay, so today, actually, Friday, all right, was the rubber band candle, all right, to a lot of important products, okay? Not to the all-time high anchored VWAP, okay? Notice that's going to be the spike candle, okay? But to the downtrend line, that is the rubber band candle on Friday, okay? So we'll see how this goes. And to the midpoint, that's to the midpoint and the backside of this candle, we're still in spike area, all right? It's still spiking through all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line, spiking through the uptrend line right here, and spiking through the midpoint, making today the rubber band candle for those events right there, okay? As far as the downtrend line goes, this is the spike, this is the rubber band candle on Friday to the downtrend line. So we'll see what happens today, okay? Maybe we get another higher high, a little move forward. We'll see what happens. There's SPY on the daily chart. And you can see SPY is no longer in the lower third, because when it was in the lower third, it was bearish. Okay, so they went down and they gave it up. That makes them neutral. Same thing as if you go up and you give it up, that's neutral. Okay, you go down, you give it up, that's neutral. You go up, you give it up, that's also neutral. All right, so on the daily chart, we have an uptrend. Okay, but on the 2-day chart, still in a downtrend. All right, 3-day chart, still in a downtrend. Weekly, still in a downtrend. Monthly, still in an uptrend. All right, that's a big tail right there. See that? That's a big tail. All right, so let's go back to the daily chart so you can see us closing over the trap, over the flat 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Wow. Over the midpoint, all right, making a stab at a comeback, okay? Now, here's our relief rally. Last time got us up to 575.50, all right? We'll see if we can get up there, all right? We're coming into some consolidation. Here's our consolidation right through here. Okay, I'm going to box this off. Consolidation. Let's get a decent box. Okay, so there's our consolidation right there. So we're coming into that consolidation this morning. All right, so we'll see how far we get. This would be minor resistance. Okay, that's overhead minor resistance right there. Okay, that'd be this area right down in, well, we'll call it right down here. Okay, minor resistance is going to be this area right through here. Okay, now the major resistance, okay, it's going to be this area. It's going to be this area up here. Okay, that's our major resistance. See the peak up there? Okay, the valleys down here are the minor resistance. This is our major. If we get through the major resistance up here, that meaning we take out the relief rally high, okay, we could be back up there on our way to visit the all-time high. Just want to say that, okay? Just saying, if we get through that major resistance right up there of this consolidation, okay, we could be up there visiting our all-time high. We'll see what happens, okay? Anything could come out. Some news could get tweeted, all right? We never know. All right, so there we are, SPY. Let's check out the game plan. Go over here to our game plan. Just pick it up on, let's look at it on the 10, all right? On the 10-minute chart, slide this over. Kind of pull this down a little bit, just a little bit, right there. Move this out of the way. Okay, so now we've got game plan, the pivot today, 549.50. I'll snap a photo of these a little bit later, drop them in the chat. Okay, so I like 4 days till expiration, Friday options. I like 11 days till expiration, Friday options. I like $5 to $20 out of the money options. Okay, if you want the best performing option, it's going to be the 0 DTE. Okay, in the money option. All right, I don't want the best performing. I want something with a little less risk. So I choose the $5 to $20 out of the money option. Okay, a little less risk there. I don't get the performance that I would on an in the money 0 DTE. Okay, but it does pare back my risk, and it makes it more affordable for me to buy some contracts. All right, I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. All right, I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. All right, so I like if we got a 10-minute uptrend over the 549.50 pivot. All right, and you got a green erases red first entry right over 551. All right, we'll see if we can get that done today. All right, on the southern direction. All right, if we have a 10-minute downtrend under the 549.50 pivot, all right, we'll have our red erases green entry under 548.50. All right, my target on the southern direction would be this area right down here, which would have been, I think, yesterday's open, Friday's open, way down here, so that'd be 546.50, and then this breakup candle low, which should be 543.70. On the high side, all right, for targets, we've got a gap fill, which could take us all the way up to 563.28. We are in the middle of a gap fill right there, okay? First target higher is going to be this candle low. Put the crosshairs on that, roughly about 553.67. Next one up, 555.71. The next one up, 560.92. And then, of course, the complete gap fill. All right, it's going to be 565. Right about there. All right, so those are our upside targets. You got the downside targets. All right, we like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, and we like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. All right, so here's the 10-minute chart. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ got a game plan as well. Let's pull that out, pull that over here. Okay, we like the same options for QQQ. 4 days till expiration, Friday option. 10 days till expiration, Friday options. $5 to $20 out of the money options. We have a bullish green erases red entry over 473.25. A little dyslexic this morning. I don't understand it. I got the pivot 471.20 right up here, and we got a bearish red erases green event or entry at 470.50 right down here. Okay, 470.50. And there's the QQQ game plan. I'll snap a photo of that one, drop it in the chat as well before I start rendering my video later on. Okay, so there's QQQ. Let's look at QQQ on the daily chart. All right, let's pull it up right here, and we want this one. QQQ on the daily chart for Friday's price action. Higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap. See the 3 on top of the 8. Okay, over the 17. That's the red dots that have now turned green, like that. Okay, closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line. Closing over the midpoint. That's the green dash right there. Okay. You move up, you give it up, you're neutral. Same thing. You move down, you give it up, you're neutral. We have a high right here. They made a higher high. QQQ now in a daily uptrend. It's just a label. Don't get excited. All right. So QQQ now in a daily uptrend. No longer in the bearish lower third. It's in the neutral area. Not in the upper third. Not in the lower third. Okay. So QQQ just neutral. Approaching or entering into same consolidation we had in SPY. Okay. Right through here. Entering into minor resistance right there. Okay, so a little minor resistance overhead. Right? If they get through that minor resistance, they're going to be attacking the major resistance. They get through that, we are looking at all-time highs again being attacked. All right, so there's QQQ. Okay, QQQ, same as SPY. All right, on the weekly chart. All right, you can see weekly chart for QQQ still in a downtrend. See the low? They made lower lows. They have yet to make a higher high. See that? No higher high. All right, 3-day chart, same deal. Okay. See the low? They made lower lows. Okay. They haven't made a higher high. That's the high they got to take out. Same with the 2-day chart. But on the daily chart, they're now in an uptrend. See the high? They made a higher high. So daily chart now in a daily uptrend. All right. You can see it's the rubber band. It's the spike candle. Friday is the spike candle for all-time high anchored VWAP for the midpoint. All right, and for it's a rubber band candle for a downtrend line. Okay, so we'll see how far they get with that. So you can see if I just string the tops of these together. Okay, this would make this. Right here, the spike candle, and that would be the free floating candle above the spike candle. That makes that the rubber band candle to the downtrend line. Okay, but this is the spike candle to this area right here. The point of interest is the all-time high anchored VWAP. So we'll see where we go today. All right, there's QQQ. Let's take a look at FNGA on the daily chart. Okay, you can see a high right here. They made a higher high. That puts them in an uptrend. All right, see they were down in the lower third. See right here, in the lower third. No longer in the lower third, so they're neutral. Okay, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap. Over the 17. All right, underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. Underneath the midpoint, no longer in the lower third, so it's just neutral. Again, they got the same consolidation to get through for FNGA. Okay, so weekly chart, yep, still in a downtrend. 3-day, same deal, downtrend. 2-day chart, still in a downtrend. Daily, just now converted to an uptrend. Okay, so that's Friday. Let's take a look at IWM. All right, you can see IWM, yep, still in a downtrend. And in order for IWM to negate the downtrend, they got to take out this high right here. See that high that pokes through the 17 right there? Okay, they got to take that high out. So they're still in a downtrend on the daily chart. All right, still in a downtrend on the 2-day, the 3-day, the weekly. Monthly, I don't know. Nope, still in an uptrend on the monthly. All right, weekly, yeah, definitely a downtrend. All right, so back to the daily chart. Okay, you can see price action for IWM on Friday's price action. Let me just review it real quick. High 194.26, high 194.37. Okay, so IWM put in a lower high, put in an inside day, really. Okay, inside day for IWM. Okay, it's a lower high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17. Okay, but under, this is the all-time high anchored VWAP. Underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP, still in the lower third, so it's bearish and still in a downtrend. Okay, and underneath the midpoint. Okay, so IWM putting up a fight. All right, but not good enough yet. All right, so there's IWM. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. The Diamond Dow still in a downtrend. They have to take out, see that high right there? They got to take that high out. Okay, they haven't done it yet, so they're still in a downtrend. Okay, price action is, let's take a peek here. High is 401.68. I think this is 401.69. No, 401.36. Scratching my head. Seems like some numbers are different. All right, so 401.36. So that's another one. Inside day. Lower high, higher low. Closing over the bullish trap. Over the 17 EMA. All right, so still in a downtrend. Still underneath the downtrend line. All right, no longer in the lower third. All right, so it's neutral. You go down, you give it up, that's neutral. Okay, but they're still in a downtrend. So just neutral under the downtrend line and still under the midpoint and under, that's the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. And still underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP right there. And on the weekly chart, if you wanted to know, just in case, you're still in a downtrend. Okay, on the monthly chart, we are still in an uptrend right there on the monthly chart. Weekly downtrend, 3-day downtrend, 2-day downtrend. Same with the daily. We already discussed this. 1 day is still in a downtrend. All right, let's take a look at our technicals. T2122. All right, so we camped out inside the buy zone. It's a 15-minute chart of the T2122. Okay, so we camped out inside the buy zone, and we just chopped around inside there all day. That's bullish up there, making little micro higher lows and higher highs, almost breaking into the overbought zone at the end of the day. All right, so there's T2122. That means T2123 should be mostly green. Let's see. All right, T2123, okay, green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, closing over that hooking or that flat 200 SMA right there. All right, if you zoom out, still got a flat line here, but it looks like we're up and walking around right here as we're getting up, and we're making, you know what? We're making some bullish traps that aren't getting filled by the bears. All right, notice that. That's a bullish environment. Okay, we're making consolidation over prior consolidation, also a bullish environment. Okay, and we're making some higher highs finally. Not really bigger higher highs, but just little increments of improvement. Okay, I'd like to see us take out this high. Okay, still a ways away, but we are making higher highs. We made a high there, and we made a higher high. All right, so that was nice work on the bulls part. Hope they can keep this up. All right, because what we got so far is, you can see we got consolidation over consolidation. Okay, here's our consolidation, and right there. So as we go up, we get consolidation. Then we get consolidation over consolidation. More consolidation over prior consolidation. Okay, and now we got Friday's price action. More consolidation over prior consolidation. So we're in a bullish environment. We're going to be in this till we're not. All right, we start making consolidation under prior consolidation, and we're not in a bullish environment anymore. Right now, we are. Okay, so looking for more moves over to the right or higher. So there's T2123. Let's trash that out. Let's go take a look at the 3-bar chart. All right, on the 3-bar chart, still looking like a little mini bull flag inside of a big bear flag. All right, so bear flag, all right, is looking like this. Okay, bear flag, move down and over to the right. Okay, so that's what we got. It's the reality. Okay, so on the bigger time frame, we're looking at a bear flag. On the little time frame, okay, you're looking at a move up and then over to the right. So we got a little mini bull flag inside of a bear flag. And I got to tell you, most of the time, these little mini bull flags inside the big bear flags wind up going, getting crushed eventually and making another move lower. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm wrong this time. Okay, we'll see what happens. But right now we got ourselves a little mini bull flag inside the bear flag. Okay, you can see on the 3-bar chart. Last time we had a nice V bottom here. Well, the time after we had the V bottom, we had to move down and then over to the right. Okay, you linger too long out here, and investors and fund managers don't want to be holding it anymore because it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. All right, they'd rather be sitting in cash than sitting in risk that's not moving anywhere. Okay, and what happens? Selling begets more selling, and you get a sell-off. Okay, just saying, it's looking the same way right here. We're kind of waking up. We're making little micro higher highs, but we haven't made anything significant as far as higher highs. Okay, we are in a little bullish environment on the smaller time frame, but if you back out, you can see on the bigger time frame and the picture, okay, we're under the 200 SMA, we're under prior all-time highs, okay, and we're just not making any higher highs as far as significant higher highs. Okay, again, significant. We've got to take out that high right there. Back to the 3-bar chart. Okay, so you can see another bear flag showing up right there, which typically you linger here too long and you get a move to the downside. So we'll see what happens. All right, there's T2123. Let's take a look at FNGA. All right, we follow FNGA because it's 10 of the most heavily weighted securities in the QQQ and the SPY. All right, so it tends to jerk the two of those around. You can see price action green from the beginning of the day on the 25th. That's Friday, all the way to the end of the day. Okay, what are we getting here? We're getting, again, that same bullish environment where we got consolidation up over prior consolidation. Okay, see that? That's a bullish environment. Again, it's bullish until it's not. Look for the triple top up here. If they get a triple top, see if they hang around after the triple top. If you get a triple top and they're still hanging around, chances are they're going to want to go higher. If you get a triple top, keep an eye on the lows. If they start breaking those lows, good chance we're coming back down to probably visit a lower high. All right, so there's FNGA on the 15-minute chart. Okay, acting bullish. Notice we've got some bullish gaps that haven't been filled. Okay, right here, right here, right here. And we're finally filling some of those bearish gaps that took a long time to get filled, like this one, like this one. Okay, so now we're finally filling some bearish gaps. Took them a long time, like 10 days. They're finally getting it done. All right, it's price action up over the hooking 200 SMA. We'll see if they can hold the higher ground. Okay, that's the important part. Okay, you got it. We want products that move up. All right, and hold the higher ground. That's what we're looking for. Got to move up. That would be a bullish environment. Okay, moving up and hold the higher ground. Okay, you look at T2123, remember what that looked like. Moving down and holding the lower ground. That is a bearish environment. Okay, it's waking up a little bit, making little micro higher highs, but not really getting the job done. Okay, so just beware. Just beware. Okay, so there's FNGA right there. Okay, we are in the rubber band candle. Okay, to the downtrend line. So we'll see where we go. We could get a little more waffling around, and we'll see if we hang out, continue to bang away at overhead supply, or if they give up and start melting off. All right, so there's FNGA. Let's take a look at a few sectors. Start off with Sector 1, which we'll call XLE. It's our energy sector. Notice the energy sector still in the lower third. Okay. Still in a downtrend. Has to take out this high to negate the downtrend. Okay, so still in a downtrend. Price action for Friday is an inside day over the trap, but under the 17 in the lower third. That's bearish. All right. So you go down and they're hanging out here. So it's kind of a bear flag right there. Okay, if they take out that high, they can negate the up. They can negate the downtrend. Okay, currently All right, let's just look at the facts. Under downtrend line 1, under downtrend line 2, under, see the pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP, under the midpoint, and in the lower third. Okay, all of that's bearish. All right, that's all bearish. We may not be moving down, all right, but all of that is bearish. That is a bearish environment. So there's XLE. All right, it's still in a downtrend and still in a bearish environment. Okay, let's take a look at USO. All right, for USO, higher low, higher high, closing over bullish trap, but under the 17. Under, USO is under this 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's a post-COVID high. See, there's COVID, post-COVID high. Okay, price action, still, I'm just going to call it still in the low. No, it's not. Not in the lower third, so it's kind of in the neutral zone. All right, but not by much. All right, not by much. All right, so they're still in a downtrend. All right, because there's a low, and they made a lower low. All right, so that put them back in a downtrend. They were in an uptrend for a day, and then they lost it the very next day. So they're stuck in the downtrend until they make a higher high. All right, if they make a higher high here, they can negate the downtrend. You just got to take out that wick up there. Okay, if they take out the wick, they can negate the downtrend. Right now, they're in a downtrend because they made a lower low. So there's USO, okay, in the neutral zone, not by much though, all right, not by much, all right. Underneath the falling 200, underneath the falling 17, underneath the 3-year high anchored VWAP, underneath the midpoint, still just neutral right here for USO. All right, it's showing it's a bear flag. Okay, notice the price action there. Put the quad lines on there. You see we're not even back at the midpoint. I don't think so. Anyways, let's take a look. Yeah, well, we're back at the midpoint right here. Okay, so the bears are still in control. All right, back at the midpoint to this move down. So the bears are still in control. If they get past 51%, okay, then the bulls have regained some control right there. Okay, so we'll see what happens. So there's USO. That is the oil fund, United States Oil Fund. Let's take a look at UNG. It's our natural gas ETF. All right, price action for the natural gas ETF is, all right, you can see price action here is a higher low and a higher high. Okay, we closed under a bearish trap, under the falling 17, under the uptrend line, under this 12-month high anchored VWAP. Okay, down here in the lower third, that's bearish and still in a downtrend. See the low? They made a lower low. That puts them in a downtrend. All right, so there's UNG, still in a downtrend, still bearish. Nothing working here for UNG yet. Of course, if you remember my videos from time ago, okay, I said, hey, we're looking at a head and shoulders here. Let's watch and see if the right arm extends down to where the left arm left off and lower. Yeah, and look at this. Here we are today. When I said this about 3 weeks ago over here. Okay, so UNG. And we broke the neckline right there. See the neckline? I'll put it in for you. Right here. That's our neckline. Okay, see that's the head. Left shoulder, right shoulder. Break the neckline. Right arm extends down to where the left arm is. Okay? Head and shoulders right there. I didn't want to do that. That's what happens. All right, UNG. Let's take a look at a few sectors. SMH. All right, SMH is... I just got to see this just for a second. Maybe they got an uptrend. Maybe. This high is 212.81. This high is 213.29. Okay, so SMH no longer in a downtrend. Hey, that's great news. SMH no longer in a downtrend because they made a higher high. Okay, so they made a higher low and a higher high. So they're in an uptrend. Okay, no longer in the lower third, so they're not bearish anymore. All right. Price action, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17 EMA, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, under the downtrend line. All right, there's SMH, no longer in the lower third, so that's just neutral. That's a good sign. That's a huge improvement from where they were, which was down here in quadrant 1, which was bearish. All right, down here, bearish, okay? You move down, you give it up, that's neutral, okay? Other than that, you go down, you stay down, that's bearish. Okay, so that's SMH. Let's take a look at the big brother to SMH. That's XLK, all right? Technology sector. Higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the midpoint, but under the downtrend line, the uptrend line. Okay, you go down, you give it up, that's neutral right there. Okay, notice they took out the high. See the candle that poked up through the 17 right there? Well, they made a higher high yesterday, Friday. So that puts them in an uptrend. All right, so we got an uptrend, but they're just neutral right through here. So let's see if they can continue that. There's XLK. Let's take a look at XLF. All right, XLF in an uptrend. See the high, made a higher high. They're in an uptrend. Price action inside day, over the trap, over the 17. All right, closed over the trap, closed over the 17. Over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the midpoint. All right, a little bit further, they could be knocking on the door of the bullish environment up there. Okay, if they got into the upper third. Not quite there yet, but price action just still in the neutral zone. Not in the upper third, not in the lower third. So on the bullish side of the midpoint, though, nice work for XLF. Okay, the problem is XLF is not going to get us there unless we can get the XLK on board. All right, if we could get this, we could get a decent rally. All right, but we got to get this up here over the all-time high anchored VWAP, kind of holding for 3 or 5 days. All right, we'll see if they can get it done. Either that or even up here in the upper third. All right, so until then, we'll have a pullback in our downtrend. All right, but it's not really strong enough yet. Okay, XLK is working on it. We like that. XLF is ready to go. Okay, you can see no longer in the lower third. Okay, notice they were down here in the lower third. That was bearish. Now they're neutral. They're knocking on the door to being bullish. Okay, nice 3-day hold up here over that all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, looking good. That's XLF. Let's take a look at IYT. All right, IYT is not going to help us out. All right, lower inside day, lower high, higher low, closing inside a bullish trap, under the falling 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, under the midpoint. All right, in the lower third, that's bearish. Still in a downtrend, okay? IYT's got to take out. See that little red candle right there, that poke up? They got to take out that high in order to negate the downtrend. Until then, still in a downtrend, unless of course they stick in a higher low, all right, and a lower high, and then they take out that lower high. All right, so there's IYT, okay? So still in a downtrend, still bearish. So still a long ways to go to getting a decent rally back up. All right, it's just a little ways off. All right, a little bit premature at this time. We'll see what happens. Start breaking some rubber band candles. Hey, we might get something going. We'll see what happens. All right, so there's IYT. All right, let's take a look at the economic package. All right, max pain for today for SPY 545 is max pain. Put to call ratio for the puts and calls that expire today, only the ones that expire today, 1.4 puts to each call. So little over 1.25 puts, 1 1/3 puts for each call that expires today. All right, so not much of a put squeeze on the table. So we'll see what happens with that. On the dollar still in a downtrend. Notice the dollar making a lower high here. There's a nice high. They made a lower high, and they're making lower lows. See the lower low? See the low? Made a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Yep, lower low, and they broke major support right here. We like that, and they're consolidating underneath it. We like that. Hopefully, we get a nice bear flag, and then another move lower. All right, so dollar in a downtrend. That's good for the market because it makes our goods and services cheaper and more affordable on the global stage. All right, when we compete against other countries. All right, to sell our goods and services. But tariffs could erase all of that. We'll see what happens. On the economic calendar for today, not much going on. Tuesday, what do we got? International trading goods, 8:30. Retail inventories, 8:30. Wholesale inventories, 8:30. Case-Shiller Home Price Index, 9 o'clock. FA House Price Index. If we didn't get one house price index, we're going to get two, just to back up the first one. Another one at 9 o'clock, Consumer Confidence, 10 o'clock. Jolts at 10. Okay, so we'll see if there's any outlying indicators in there. I don't think I'll see any surprises there. Economy's really not that bad yet. We'll see what happens. Wednesday, what do we got? ADP unemployment report, 9:15. GDP. Want to take a close look at GDP. That's going to be a main event. All right. GDP, that's gross domestic product. That tells us how much goods and services we sold to foreign countries, how much we're taking in. Like I got to say, last time's GDP was not that good. All right. I think it was up over 2.4, 2.5, but it wasn't that great. All right. We need good GDP to bring some revenue in. All right. To help fund the country and keep it rolling forward. All right, Treasury refunding announcement. Employment cost index, 8:30. Chicago PMI, 9:45. Personal income and outlays. That's weird. Usually that's on a Friday. This time it's on a Wednesday. All right, that comes on at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. That'll be interesting to see that one. Pending home sales index. All right, we've got a house price index. Now we're going to get a home sales index. 10 o'clock on Wednesday. Petroleum report at 10:30. And a light day after that. Thursday, what do we got? Jobless claims, 8:30. PMI manufacturing, 9:45. ISM manufacturing, 10. Construction spending at 10. Gas report, 10:30 on Thursday. That's normal for every Thursday. Unless, of course, it's a holiday. And then they push it off to a Friday. All right. But usually the petroleum report comes in on Wednesday. Gas report on Thursday. And what do we got? Fed balance sheet at the end of the day. Motor vehicle sales on Friday. Employment situation. This is going to be a big one right here. Be a big movement off this employment situation. All right, so this is going to be another one of the main events. Not only GDP, all right, but the employment situation at 8:30 on Friday could be a very big market mover. Factory orders, 10 o'clock. All right, so we'll see what happens here. So let's take a look at earnings on the 28th. What do we got? Fomento Económico Mexicano, all right. It's at $401 billion. They're going to report this morning. Everybody else, familiar names, but nothing that's going to really move the markets. Waste Management, you all know they're familiar. Okay, Welltower. Let's take a look on Tuesday. Visa's going to report in the evening, $622 billion. Wow, they're getting up there. All right, Coca-Cola, $308 billion. They're going to report tomorrow morning. Novartis, still looking for the P&L. AstraZeneca found theirs. They're going to report in the morning, $215 billion. Another one looking for the P&L, HSBC Holdings, not a good sign. Booking Holdings, $158 billion. They're going to report in the evening alongside of Tech, alongside of Visa. All right, S&P Global, $147 billion in the morning. Pfizer, they've been in the dump, $129 billion. They're going to report Wednesday morning. Honeywell, Tech, that's $129 billion in the morning. Usually they report at night. Spotify's going to report in the morning. What's going on here? Tech's reporting in the morning now. All right, $126 billion for Spotify. Going to report in the morning. Honeywell, Tech, also $129 billion. Going to report in the morning. And let's take a look at page 2. All right, American Tower, all familiar names. Okay, Mondelez, Sherwin-Williams, United Parcel Service, BP. Again, all familiar names. Nothing that's going to move the markets. All right, that's for Tuesday. That's tomorrow. All right, so tomorrow's big one's going to be Visa. That will definitely affect the financials. All right, what do we got? Coca-Cola, $309 billion. They're going to report tomorrow morning. All right. Visa's going to report in the evening. AstraZeneca is going to report in the morning. Let's take a look at Wednesday. Okay, Microsoft. All right, almost $3 trillion. That's going to be a main event. All right, alongside Meta. All right, Meta's $1.33 trillion. Okay, these will be a market mover on Wednesday, right there in the evening. There's tech reporting in the evening, as always. Okay, normally. Qualcomm, $184 billion. They're going to report in the evening alongside tech. All right. Caterpillar, $146 billion in the morning. Total Energies, $132 billion in the morning. ADP, Automatic Data Processing, $118 billion in the morning. Banco Santander, $118 billion in the morning. All right. Again, UBS, CLAC, Equinix. All right. Some more familiar names, but nothing that's going to move the markets like Microsoft and Meta. Okay. A lot of market movers right there. On Thursday, what do we got? Apple's going to report $3 trillion. Amazon, $2 trillion. Okay. Big tech. This is be a wacky week. All right. We got big tech reporting. Apple, Amazon on Thursday. On Wednesday, Microsoft, Meta. It's going to be a huge week. Wednesday, Thursday. All right. Not only Wednesday, we got GDP also on Wednesday. All right. So just beware. Be hedged for these. All right. If you've got a position, you'll want to definitely be hedged in your portfolio for these earnings reports. These could rip it either way. Okay, Thursday in the morning, we got Eli Lilly, $838 billion. MasterCard, $486 billion in the morning alongside Lilly. McDonald's, $226 billion alongside Lilly and MasterCard. Lindy, all right, $212 billion alongside McDonald's, MasterCard, and Eli Lilly. All right. And then Shell, still looking for the P&L. Amgen, $150 billion. They're going to report in the evening alongside Apple and Amazon. Stryker Corporation, $139 billion. They're going to report alongside Apple and Amazon. Mercado Libre, still looking for the P&L. All right, let's take a look at Friday. Berkshire is finally going to report. All right, they usually report in the afternoon or in the morning or something. All right, they never seem to have a daylight or a nighttime reporting. They might even report on Saturday. Who knows? All right, so Berkshire A and B, about $2 trillion right there. So heavy week for the earnings this week. All right, so probably want to be hedged all week long between GDP and all big tech reporting. Just be careful out there. ExxonMobil, $471 billion. They're going to report Friday morning. Chevron, $244 billion. They're going to report Friday morning. Eaton Corporation, $112 billion. Friday morning. All right, I'll take questions in the room. If there's no questions, I'm going to get those game plans posted up and get the video rendered, and we'll kick off this day. Today's the rubber band day, all right, to the downtrend line. We'll see how far it goes. All right, and it's the spike candle to the all-time high anchored VWAP. We'll see how far that goes. Thank you, everybody. All right, you'll see me in about, I guess, 30 minutes. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Jim. All right. See me in about 30 minutes. Let me get this rendered.